This is a podcast of 98FM's Dublin Talks. Remember, catch the show live Monday to Friday at 10 a.m.
98FM's Dublin Talks with Adrian Kennedy.
98FM.
It's 98FM's Dublin Talks. My name is Adrian Kennedy and we're with you until midday today. Now, this is an issue that regularly comes up for discussion on social media and online forums, but rarely gets discussed on the radio. Chemtrails, or at least that's what they're called. The belief that the white lines in the sky coming from airplanes are actually chemical trails that are slowly killing us. Others believe that it's simply water vapour brought on by the heat of the airplane engines hitting the cold air. And we want to know, which side are you on? There are several groups set up here in Ireland that try to educate people about chemtrails and have attempted to reveal that conspiracy that these white lines are far from safe. Here's what the internet says about it. The chemtrail conspiracy is the false claim that long-lasting condensation trails, called chemtrails, consist of chemical or biological agents left in the sky by high-flying aircraft and deliberately sprayed for purposes undisclosed to the general public. A sort of form of chemical warfare. Although you'd think we'd all be dead by this stage if that were the case. And I want to hear from you on 6797981. As you can see, if you look at our Facebook page at facebook.com/Adrian K and Jeremy D, you'll see a photograph that our Jeremy took earlier on today above his house in Dublin. And the sky is littered with lines from airplanes. Now, because of the nice weather, we're able to see them. They're there all the time. We just normally can't see them because it's so cloudy here. I'm joined on the line by Terry Lawton from climatechangeagenda.com. Terry, welcome to 98FM.
Thanks, Adrian.
Terry, like I said, these lines on the sky are there all the time. We just happen not to be able to see them that often, but we can with the nice weather at the minute. Should we be worried?
Well, every major university and science academy on the planet now, Adrian, is discussing blocking out the sun in a supposed attempt to cool the planet and save us all from global warming. Now, there are many different schemes being proposed. They range from putting mirrors in space to spraying substances into the atmosphere from commercial aircraft with the purpose of creating an artificial cloud blanket around the planet. Now, what these scientists say is that they believe that they can mimic a volcanic eruption because throughout history, when volcanoes have erupted, the fallout has created a cloud layer around the planet and cooled the planet. So this is what these scientists are proposing. And one, as I said, one of the proposals is spraying substances from airplanes, and they call this scientifically, it's called stratospheric aerosol injection. And this happens to be what we see every day on a daily basis. Yesterday, Ireland was absolutely hammered, just like we are today, but yesterday was particularly bad by jet trails. And if you go onto Sat24 or NASA Worldview satellite imagery, you can go on to look at yesterday from space, and you can see that Ireland was specifically targeted with jet trails all the way around Ireland, trails beginning at the coastline on one side of Ireland and ending at the other coast, north, south, east and west. And the rest of Europe is completely trail-free. So for those who say that there's just condensation...
So what do you say? What you're saying is that yesterday Ireland was specifically targeted by these chemtrails.
Well, it's not what I'm saying. It's what the satellite imagery shows. It's a blatant, specific, strategically placed layer of interwoven. It's like a fabric, a tapestry of trails laid upon the country. And there's nowhere else in Europe that had one single trail in the entire of Europe yesterday. No other country. So people that say that this is just condensation trails, did the atmospheric physics just change right over Ireland yesterday?
Okay, so what is your belief? When I look up in the sky in a clear day, I can see these white lines going across the sky, and I know that an airplane has passed over in the last 20 minutes or so. what is in that vapour, or what do you think is coming out of these airplanes?
Well, what the scientific academies and universities propose spraying range from aluminium oxide to barium, strontium and nanotechnology. Now, I've attended 5 climate engineering conferences. One I attended in Berlin in 2014. And one of the presentations there, in one of the presentations entitled Design of Practical Hardware for Climate Engineering, they discussed retrofitting commercial aircraft with spray equipment to spray substances into the atmosphere for not only engineering the climate, but for also engineering human beings. Now, this is what they are discussing, not me. I just attended the conference.
Okay, but what do you believe?
Well, we cannot talk about, you were talking about climate change there and global warming and global cooling and whatever. The reality is, no, we cannot have a legitimate conversation about climate change without including into the equation the subject of climate engineering. In 2012, the World Meteorological Organization released a report which lists 42 countries engaged in full-time weather modification activities. Imagine that. Now, these companies that are using these technologies all around the world, they are using technologies ranging from cloud seeding, which is spraying substances from airplanes, to lasers mounted on satellites in space to grow clouds.
Terry, what do you believe is coming out of the back of an airliner as it flies across Dublin?
Well, I have had rainwater tested, which I collected in my garden here down in Wexford, and it showed high levels of barium, strontium and aluminium oxide. And these are exactly the materials that climate engineers are proposing to use to take control of the world's climate as a supposed solution to global warming. So everything they're proposing, from the spraying of the skies to the retrofitting of commercial aircraft with spray equipment to the materials we are seeing these trails in the sky. We are seeing these materials coming down in rainwater now, and you can look at any plane when you board it and you can see the spray nozzles above the jet exhaust on every commercial airliner. They have these spray nozzles. So, you know, what do people think is going on there? You know?
So what do you believe that there are chemicals being sprayed out of the back of an airliner as it flies in the sky, and that's what's causing the white lines in the sky?
Well, it's not what I believe. I have hours and hours of footage of airplanes coming into Irish airspace, turning on and off these trails at specific points. And as I said, I have videoed the spray nozzles. And it's all there. It's in plain view for all of us to see, and it's so insane. Most people don't believe it because of its insanity, and I understand why people don't believe it. But truth is stranger than fiction, and throughout history, there's nothing new under the sun. Government has sprayed its people throughout history, from the 1950s through to the 1970s. In the UK, the UK RAF and the Ministry of Defence sprayed the UK population with zinc cadmium, which they released from RAF aircraft. And their cover story was that they wanted to see how the population would react to an attack by the Russians in the Cold War. So this was their cover story. And this has happened throughout history. And Vietnam, weather was used as a weapon to swamp out the Ho Chi Minh Trail. That was all the way back in the 60s. Lyndon Johnson had a weather modification advisor in the White House, and he said that he who controls the weather will control the world. And also JFK said that one day all nations will work together to accurately predict and eventually control the weather. And JFK said that in 1962, September 25th, 1962.
But okay, and I'm listening to all of what you're saying, okay? But, right, at this very moment, I'm looking at the Flight Radar app, and flying over Dublin at this moment is a flight from London Heathrow to Salt Lake City. It's flying at 30,000 feet above our city. And no, I can't see out the window, but if that has a white trail behind it, what's in it?
Well, I would need a spectrometer. I would need a very, very advanced equipment to go up there. I'd need a plane to go up to that distance and actually take a sample from behind that plane to identify exactly what was in that trail, so I couldn't tell you from the ground. But when you see a trail being turned on and off, I mean, that would raise alarm bells in any common sense observer's mind.
Well then, do you believe, so this particular flight that I'm looking at, which is flying close to Dublin, left London Heathrow 37 minutes ago, did somebody fill up like a tank with chemicals before the flight left?
Well, the chemicals are on board somewhere, and do you know, there are many compartments on the Ryanair plane. Let's say there's a compartment, hold number 3, which has been off limits to the cabin crew for a couple of decades now. So there's a lot of secrecy going on. A lot of people in the industry are afraid to speak out about it. The pilots don't want to talk about it because they know what's going on. They're afraid to lose their jobs. I don't believe the pilots have any involvement with it. This is all automated through a control centre. The UK Met Office headquarters in Exeter, I believe, is the control centre which is activating all of these spray nozzles on each plane.
So hang on. So commercial airliners, in your belief, I just want to make sure I have this right. Commercial airliners, in your belief, without the consent or knowledge of pilots, are filling up some tanks aboard these aircraft to release these chemicals into the atmosphere to either change the weather or to poison us.
Well, this is what governments are proposing, so it is insane, but this is what governments are proposing. So, you know, people need to ring up the government and say, what the hell is going on here? I'm only the messenger. I'm just telling you what they're proposing, and I'm telling you what I'm seeing.
All right. So really what you're saying is we should be concerned, very concerned.
We should be very concerned because Alzheimer's has skyrocketed in the last 20 years in correlation with the acceleration of these programs. And aluminium is the main cause of Alzheimer's, and aluminium is one of the substances being sprayed on us. And aluminium is also in the jet fuel. Now, in 1995, all commercial aviation jet fuel was changed over from JP5 to JP8. And the difference in that was 4 times the aluminium content. And we can also see exactly the same correlation with Alzheimer's since that time as well. It's all around the same time since these programs are ramped up and the changeover in the jet fuel. So we need to be very concerned. Yes, we do. And we need to be very concerned about air pollution because air pollution is now the single biggest cause of death on the planet. And there's not one mention of aviation traffic. Do you know why? Because the aviation industry is exempt from emission regulations. If my car doesn't pass the NCT, I can possibly go to jail. I can be thrown into a cell by bully Gardaí on the road. But the guys in the sky, no problem. It's open season.
All right, stay there for a second. Michael, you're on 98FM. How are you, Michael?
Not too bad. How are you?
Michael, do you worry when you see white streaks in the sky?
Not like that fella now. I wouldn't worry, but I do see them, yeah. I do see them.
Well, we all see them, and obviously with the weather we're having lately, we see them even more. But does it cause you concern?
Yeah, look, I think there's no evidence here. Everything that lad's saying, it's imagination, like the only thing we know for a fact is that they are in the sky. Everything else is just the imagination running away with us. We don't know what they're there for or what they could be there for.
Yeah, we don't. But my belief is that it's just water vapour out of really hot engines up in the very cold sky. Yeah. I don't think it's any more than that, but Terry obviously clearly believes it is more than that.
Yeah, but the thing, Terry can't prove what he's saying. And that's Terry's problem. And that's all these chemtrail people. They're either very, very angry people or they're coming out with all this stuff about this, that and the other. And then you say to them, listen, where's your proof? Where's your evidence? And they can't give you any. Yeah, I'd listen to them. If they had proof, if they had evidence, proper evidence, I'd listen to them.
Okay, Terry, what do you say to that? You don't have proper evidence for this.
Evidence of what? Is that gentleman asking me for evidence of what specifically?
Anything you're saying, you've no evidence. You've nothing. You're going about aluminium, and you're talking about science academies and aluminium, this, that, and the other. That aluminium could come from anywhere. That could be coming from incinerators. It could be coming from China. China's a very polluted country.
That's right, but it's in the jet fuel. Aluminium is in the jet fuel.
You don't know. Yeah, listen, you're saying that, but you can't prove that. If I asked you to prove that to me, you couldn't prove that to me.
Oh, I can prove it to you, of course.
But you can't.
No problem.
How can you prove it? By collecting rainwater in your garden in Wexford. That's your proof. Seriously, like.
Terry, what do you say to people who believe that
the World Aviation Federation have publicised the increase in the aluminium content in the jet fuel from the JP5 to JP8 switchover? So it's not my opinion.
Okay, but what do you say to people who believe that, much knowledge of these theories and all of that, you're nothing more than a conspiracy theorist? End of.
No, well, it's all conspiracy fact. Unfortunately, I wish it wasn't real. I wish that there was no such thing as companies that you could hire, to bring sunshine for your wedding day, tinkering around with the Earth's climate. It's a company called Oliver's Travels, and they guarantee you sun on your wedding day for 100,000 sterling. Is that a conspiracy theory? No, it's not. That's a fact.
Sorry, what did you say this company? Oliver's Travels?
Oliver's Travels Weather Modification. You Google that now and you'll find them. They're not operating in Ireland yet, but they're wanting to expand. Okay? So if they start getting phone calls, they might just expand over here. But what I'm saying is, I phoned up Rain on Request after Hurricane Ophelia, and I asked them, it was the storm, it was the floods about 3 years ago, and I asked them, would they be able to prevent future flooding in Ireland if I had the money? And they said, yes, it would cost many millions of dollars, but yes, we have the technology to do it. They said they could bring over their ground-based ionisation towers to ionise the atmosphere here in Ireland,
okay,
to change the particle charge to enhance rainfall and to dry up rain.
Okay,
hang on.
I'm looking at this website, Terry. You sound like an intelligent bloke. This looks like a piss-take website to me. Now, I have to be honest. I'm looking at it, this Oliver's Travels thing, and how long does it take to burst a cloud, and isn't it dangerous, and blah, 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 blah. And
it was in the Daily Mail last year. It was a big article on it. Contact Daily Mail about it.
That doesn't make it real, because it was in the Daily Mail.
But they're talking about it.
Yeah, okay, let me bring in, Frank, you're on 98FM. How are you, Frank?
Adrian, good morning.
Good morning, Frank. How are you?
Well, fair play to Terry there. We've just found Jimmy Hoffa. He's in that Seagull Compartment 3 on a Ryanair flight.
What's your view on all of this?
It's simple, Adrian. An aircraft runs on Jet A1 fuel, otherwise known as kerosene. The same kerosene that you put in your heating oil at home, okay? It's just filtered out, purified, okay? They're not water vapours. It's fuel vapours from an exhaust. The back of the jet engine is the exhaust. And when it goes up 35,000 feet, the hot air coming out of that hits the cold air and it freezes it. It crystallises it. And it turns into a cloud-like shape and it stays there till it burns off. There's no secret compartments with feckin' chemicals in them blowing out. Aircraft fuel engine, the only thing that goes into them tanks on either side of the wing and the centre tank is aviation fuel, otherwise kerosene. Now I've seen this on numerous websites over and over, it's ridiculous. And the reason the aviation people aren't coming out about this is because they're right. Why are they even wasting their time explaining something that simple? A car has an exhaust, a fireplace has a chimney. Every fuel that you burn emits gases and carbon monoxide that burns off, yeah? That's a fact. Early man, when he discovered fire in the cave, had a hole in the middle of the fucking cave to let the smoke out.
Okay, let me explain about the contrail formation. You need specific conditions.
Go ahead.
You need specific atmospheric conditions for a contrail to form. Now, those conditions are, first of all, the plane must be above 25,000 feet. The temperature must be below -50, and the atmospheric humidity must be above 70%. Now, on any given day, you can go onto a website called the University of Wyoming Atmospheric Soundings, and you can see what the atmospheric humidity is in Valencia Observatory on any given day on this website. And most days, you see trails littering the sky. The atmospheric humidity is nowhere up near 70%. So what we see most days is a physical impossibility for those to be contrails. Absolute physical impossibility.
Terry, it's fuel. It's exhaust fuel from a jet engine. If you put anything else in that fuel, mixing it with anything, a plane will fall out of the sky.
How do you explain jet trails being turned on and off and different stuff?
He doesn't turn them on and off. That's a pile adjusting the engine speed coming in. And you won't see it when he's coming down low because the temperature's not cold enough.
Okay, well, how do you explain jet trails when they spread out? One trail can have 3 different substances in it. You can have different substances falling at different altitudes. Hang on, don't interrupt me now. Hang on there, you're interrupting me. The different substances fall to different altitudes and react in different ways in the atmosphere. There's different substances being sprayed on us, and the Aer Lingus Airbus A319 has 3 spray nozzles at the exhaust. Explain that to me now. You explain that to me.
I'm not spraying nozzles. You've no proof they're spraying nozzles. Where's your proof they're spraying nozzles? You seen it on the website, did you?
Well, do you know what a gun looks like?
Of course I know what a gun looks like.
And if you had a gun,
if you had a gun, you should actually put a round in it and put it in the chamber.
Listen to me.
Put a stop to yourself.
How would you prove it's a gun? You're asking me the same question. It's a spray nozzle, 3 spray nozzles.
Well, if it walks like a duck and quacks like a duck, it's a duck.
Exactly. You said it.
No, exactly. There's no spray jets on any wing of an aircraft, you fool you. You've too much time in your hand. You have a mobile phone, right? You have a mobile phone there, and if you walk out of your house or out of your building or whatever secure cell you're in, have a look around you, and you'll see phone masts. That's actually radiating more radiation. You have buses going by you, you have trucks with diesel fumes, you have the sun shining down on you there today, emitting massive amounts of UV and radiation and killing you, and you're up all night 24/7 worried about so-called chemtrails.
Now listen to me, brother.
Let him speak. Go on, Terry.
Excuse me now. You don't call me a fool on live radio, by the way, brother, okay? I'm coming on here.
I'll repeat that. You're a fool.
Relax there, Frank. Relax. In fairness to him...
this guy is just being abusive now, and he's not absorbing any facts that I'm throwing across to him, so there's no point talking to a guy like this.
Take it back, Terry. Sorry, I'm not absorbed. Go on.
Stay there. I have a mate of Terry's on the line. Kieran, you're on 98FM. How are you, Kieran?
Good morning. Doing good, thanks.
Good, Kieran. What did you want to say?
Well, I have to say that I'm equally as concerned as Terry about everything that's been going on. I have a certain gift of attention to detail, and I never saw the sky looking like it does these days, even when there was increasing aircraft going on, flying overhead in decades gone by. I used to notice the way the trails used to dissipate quite rapidly. And we're seeing far more days now where the trails are right across the sky, and there are some certain days where it's clear and there are no trails. So,
but is that not all to do? And forgive me, I'm not a scientist, but is that not all to do with the atmospheric conditions in the skies above us?
Unfortunately, I'm a gardener by trade and a music teacher later afternoon, evening, and I get to see the sky a lot and examine it. And I have seen the way the day has started off warm and no trails. And by 11 o'clock, the planes are coming by producing trails. And guess what? Even more aircraft are going overhead than were going overhead the day before. There's definitely, we understand there are military-industrial complex aircraft up there that aren't even appearing on flight radar. We have a certain Dave Allen, who is not the comedian. He's a Dublin-based guy who's doing tracking on 24/7 radar and posting up on Anti-Geoengineering Ireland on Facebook regularly on this. He's a guy who is nursing himself back to health. That's why he's got time on his hands to be able to do this. And he's also observing the sky. I want to also mention about how the Monsanto Corporation have made it no secret recently that they have created through genetic modification the aluminium-resistant crop seed. So there are alarm bells ringing big time that when you hear...
Okay, Kieran, I don't want to get too complicated and too...
Well, it's factual, unfortunately.
Okay, this conversation is about so-called chemtrails coming out of the back... Okay, what do you believe... I've heard what your friend said. What do you believe is coming out of the back of aircraft as they fly over our country?
Well, we have a fellow Irishman originally from Northern Ireland who's based in San Francisco who's taken all sorts of ground reading and mountain water reading samples based around where he is there in San Francisco. He's a photojournalist, Patrick Roddy. People are welcome to look him up on Facebook right now, Patrick Roddie. And there's been Terry samples taken. Numerous people have taken samples. There's a Dublin lady called Anna Harvey who has been getting samples taken, people spending their own money on this. And it is showing up that there are higher rates of aluminium than ever before. And we are hearing about barium and strontium in the mix as well. And we have also heard in the past people like, where's the name gone? Henry Kissinger, saying that if you control the food, you control the people. Well, the fact of the matter is that the way that they can control the food best is by controlling the weather. And there's a Greek professor on YouTube who is speaking Greek, but he is also being subtitled about the fact that there is a game of Monopoly going on by the world elite all around the world, whereby they are actually deliberately sabotaging weather to destroy crops, and playing literally this game of Monopoly.
Okay, stay there for 1 second. You're basically saying that we should be concerned about these trails in the sky.
Yeah, the media have an embargo on talking the truth about this.
Remember that, we're actually discussing it today, Kieran.
Yeah, but this has been going on for nearly 20 years in a big way.
Okay, stay there for a second. Dave, you're on 98FM. How are you, Dave?
How you doing, guys? Listen, thanks for discussing this topic this morning. For a long time I've been plugging away at media trying to get a highlight in it, so I applaud you for that this morning.
You should have contacted us before now, Dave.
I've numerous messages sent to you guys, plenty of times asked you to get me on there. I really have. Just to touch on Terry and Kieran there, basically, we have been watching, and I have tons of videos also recorded on the YouTube channel of what's going on. Now, unfortunately, I'm not up there at 36,000 feet testing what the aircraft are spraying, but I was a medical courier, self-employed for a long time, and I had built up a great rapport with plenty of labs, and having contacted the EPA, the IAA, the HSE, the HSA, the Board of Education, because of 3 children, I was worried about them going to school under all this, to be honest with you. And I contacted the state labs and explained what I needed tested, and I was basically stonewalled. Which surprised me, because if somebody had turned around and said to me at the time, "Oh, Dave, listen, the reason that's there is because XYZ," I probably would have accepted that. But I mean, I was drawn into all this. A heron came to my pond and took some fish one time. I was looking up in the sky for the heron. I was saying that wasn't the lions. That's how I discovered it. And basically, just to touch on something, there's a guy called Mike Decker on Facebook and YouTube, and I've watched all his videos, and he uses a P900, and he's gone in and filmed all these aircraft spraying, military and commercial airliners. And he verifies them.
But Dave, hang on for 1 second. Why would a commercial private company like one of the big airlines in any way involve themselves in the spraying of chemicals above the population? That's the bit that just makes no sense to me at all.
Yeah, you know what? I fully agree with you. It took a long time to get my own head around it. The thing is, he has tons of videos which shows these aircraft with belly spray.
You see, I just don't get it. I was giving an example of a flight flying over Dublin in the last half hour that was heading off to the States. It left London an hour ago. It's flying at 35,000 feet. And are you trying to tell me that before it left Heathrow Airport, somebody filled up a tank full of chemicals to spray over Ireland?
No, that's not what I'm trying to say to you. What I'm going to say to you is I have multiple recordings of major airlines, and I'm in a busy flight path here, which would be Dublin. I see an awful lot of stuff heading west, and I have them all multiple offending. And what happens is, as the lads touched on earlier, you have the forward exhausts coming into two and then eventually into a chain link. And if you have a good camera, when you zoom in and look at that stuff, there's all different substances, there's different trails, it's going different ways. It does not look like water vapour. I've recorded it in different, using different lenses and that, and you can clearly see. Like I tell you, a big.
But no. You see, again, I'm going to ask you, Dave. A flight from a commercial airliner that left London an hour ago, was it filled up with chemicals before it departed Heathrow?
Well, I have spoke to some ramp agents who were hired by Temple Recruitment for Ryanair, who would not officially go on record. I don't know the answer to that.
Okay, but you see, this is where it just seems insane to me. I
have Ryanair on film spraying. I have Ryanair. I've sent it to them.
Will you send me that video?
Ryanair.
Will you send me that video? I'd love to see it. Alan, I'm rapidly running out of time. Unbelievable response to this, by the way. Alan, what did you want to say?
Good morning, Jeremy.
Good morning, I'm Adrian, but go on, Alan.
Adrian, sorry.
Go on, what do you want to say?
I'm a retired person, and all this conspiracy thing has gone on my head. I agree with the lads saying. I was out there in my garden. Actually, I rang up yesterday about this. I was out there in my garden, and I've never seen anything like it. It was just a mass of, they call them chemtrails, right?
Yeah, but sorry, yesterday was a very clear day, so you could see the sky.
I know that, but and hence look up at your sky today, and I guarantee you by about 12:30 or 1 o'clock, that'll be all gone, right? What they used to do in the winter was the same. They do it in the morning, it'd be lovely blue sky. By 12 o'clock, it'd be clouded over. Anyway, another thing I wanted to say to you. We were out walking in Portmarnock there 2 weeks ago, and they're talking about flying at such an altitude of height. I'd seen 8 planes coming over, and they were nowhere near that height, right? And there was 10 of them, and I pointed it out to them, and I said, look at this. Now, these were all coming in sequels, like, they weren't like commercial, like they weren't going to the States, for instance. These were just commercial. These were just spraying stuff out, heading all directions straight across to the west of Ireland. So, I mean, I don't know myself. Like, and I agree with that chap about the Alzheimer's and all. We've never had such an epidemic of Alzheimer's and...
but you see, this is the bit I just don't understand, Alan.
Yeah. Now, I work in a hospital now. I worked in a hospital myself for 15 years, and I've seen people and young kids coming in with respiratory problems, right, that we'd never seen before.
Okay, but that's slightly different to the belief that we are being intentionally poisoned from the sky.
Yeah. Well, as I said to you, Adrian, like, I'm at the age now that, like, look, I'll tell you another thing. The people, like, that don't see these things happening in the sky are going around looking at their phones. Like, they're looking down, they're not looking up, you know. They're walking at the lampposts and one thing or another, you know. These are the people who don't actually look up.
Okay, but let me just bring in one last call on this. Tony, you're on 98FM. How are you, Tony?
How's it going, Adrian? How are things?
Tony, we should shut our bedroom windows when we get home today because we're being poisoned from the sky.
It's laughable. That's all I can explain. And I'll explain something very quickly to you, Adrian. Okay, I don't want to go too technical, okay? Every different aircraft has different types of engines, right? Different types of engines produce different types of vapours. Okay, and the lad said earlier on, I think it's don't use A319 anymore. Some aircraft have what's called fuel jettison pipes, which eject fuel if they have to go. Let's say there's a medical emergency on board. Let's say that flight you said that was going from London to the States. He might have to turn back for some reason, and he'd have to go into a holding pattern to dump the fuel because he'd be too heavy to land safely. Another thing as well. Dublin Airport has a waypoint called DUB, which aircraft fly over as a navigational point to head west. The reason why you see everything heading west around the 12 o'clock mark is because all the flights that came in at 5 or 6 or 7 o'clock in the morning that flew east at night time fly back across the track.
Yes, I understand that, yes.
So that's the reason for, like, this whole chemtrails conspiracy theory has been going on for about 30 years. I also sent a video link to your WhatsApp there about 15, 20 minutes ago from an airline pilot that explains what chemtrail means. Chemical is, in other words, the fuel being burned through the exhaust and trail being behind it. So you have a chemical trail, which is the fuel exhaust. Contrail is condensation that might come off the edge of the wingtips that can cause a condensation trail. A chemtrail is fuel being burnt off, like the kerosene that the lad mentioned earlier. That's all it is.
Okay, so when they see it being, as they said, switched on and switched off, they're burning fuel?
I'll give you an example, right? You can have a Ryanair flight going to Belfast, right?
Yep. And
he flies over Dublin, and you see the exhaust. He's descending through 25,000 feet, and suddenly it looks like it's turned off, and turned on and turned off. He's flying through an altitude of where the temperature is changing, so it looks like it's been turned on and off. It's not. It's an altitude change, and it's a temperature change from the weather that you mentioned up above. That's all it is. And that's my understanding of the whole thing.
All right, Tony, thanks very much indeed for your call. And thank you all of you for your calls. There you are. We talked about it. A lot of you have been on to us to ask us to talk about it. And as the skies stay clear, you're going to see much more of the contrails, which is what they're actually called, which is condensation trails in the skies above Dublin. This is 98FM's Dublin Talks.
This is a podcast of 98FM's Dublin Talks. Remember, catch the show live Monday to Friday at 10 a.m.
98FM's Dublin Talks with Adrian Kennedy.
98FM.